Reaper Overlord, if you'd like to hit the recording button. Sweet, thank you. All right. I'm assuming if you are here, you've probably signed up for my class on purpose and therefore you know my name, but just in case, I'm Ian Markon. I've been a painter with Reaper for what? Well, my first ReaperCon was in 2012, but I was painting as a teenager back to probably 2003 or something like that. And in more recent years, I really have come to love non-metallic metal. And so as I experimented more and more with that, I had to give Sky Earth non-metallic metal a try. And I found that to be a really fun little tool to put in your toolbox. And so it's not really, at the end of the day, that much different from non-metallic metal and just its basic sense. All we're going to do is we're going to bring in more color from our environment and push the shininess value to 11. And if we do those two things at the same time, you get a reflection of your horizon. You get Sky Earth non-metallic metal. So with that, let's go ahead and get rocking and rolling. I'm going to switch over to show you guys my presentation camera instead of my face, because you'll get more use out of the miniature than seeing me there. Content from second camera, share, behold. All right, let's see here. So what am I calling Sky Earth non-metallic metal? Well, I'm calling something like this Sky Earth non-metallic metal. So some people would just call this simply chrome, but the idea is that you're looking at the miniature and you should see the reflection of the horizon in the metallic portions of the miniature. Different shapes make this technique easier or harder to pull off. For example, I'm happier with my Sky Earth non-metallic metal up here on his the middle of his backpack than I maybe am on all areas of his legs. But it kind of just depends on how you're seeing things. We're gonna shoot for an effect that is fairly similar to this, especially if you look at like his knee pad. You get that nice, little reflective dot of the sun in the sky, and then you get the horizon everywhere else. And so, since it helps to have a bunch of different metal plates to make this technique pop, we're going to be working on our super cyborg hero here today, because not only does he have a lot of metal, he has a lot of metal in some interesting shapes that will show both will have angles that would reflect both the ground and have angles that would reflect the sky. You can do this technique essentially on any metal surface, but if you have a flat plate that is angled up, well, realistically, it's only going to see the sky. And so unless you have some other flat plates that are angled down and are going to see the earth, it's not going to sell the effect as easily. This effect gets sold the best and the easiest when you have shapes that are at angles where they can reflect, where a single plate, like his pectoral plates here, can reflect both the sky and the earth. And so you get that line of demarcation on the plate instead of between plates. Nonetheless, if you don't have this miniature, pretty much anyone wearing plate mail would be an awesome substitution, or if you've got some mecha or something like that, you'd be in good shape. So I literally have done nothing to this miniature other than I washed him, and because I had my airbrush out for something else, I quickly dusted his base with black just to help the filming and help the contrast of things there. But otherwise, he's just bare bones black up here. So with that in mind, though, we can paint right over this, but I would like the paints stick a little bit better once you have a nice base coat down. So why don't we just grab out a gray and go ahead and gray out some of the areas that we're going to color, just give a nice paint layer to paint on top of. I don't care much which gray color you pick, and I'm sorry for calling an audible all of a sudden and asking you to grab a color other than what I listed in the class description, but just grab any medium gray and you'll be in great shape. So for example, I am going to grab Tempest Gray. I got that handy. It's not super dark, it's not super light, it's just somewhere some are good to go. Yeah, if you've already airbrush primed yours, that should be good to go. I'll talk with you guys a little bit about the theory and how we're going to proceed as I do the base coating. So hopefully we can use our time wisely all the way through. Now, one of the first things to recognize when attempting sky earth non-metallic metal or any non-metallic metal is that it's not generally a fast technique. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some hours to get this all done. So as you look at our example miniature here today, we are not going to paint anywhere close to this entire miniature. Instead, we're probably going to focus on like maybe his right pectoral, his shoulder, do all this, and we'll probably just do it from the front. But if we get our practice in on multiple plates, then you can take that same technique, take those same techniques and apply them throughout the model here. So, so with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and start slapping some paint on this guy here. And then the second thing to keep in mind with non-metallic metal, with sky earth non-metallic metal or non-metallic metal in general, is that at the end of the day, it really is kind of just blending. It's where you pick the light. That's one half. That's generally, that can be a little tricky, but it's not too bad. And then it is blending. If you already feel pretty good about your blending skills, then this technique will probably come a little bit easier once you get the basics of the light placement down. If you're not super confident in your blending skills, that's okay. You can make up for the blending with good light placement. And so I would encourage you to still stick around and keep practicing along with us. And this will be a technique that will definitely improve your blending through practice if you give it a go. So. See if am I happy with the focus there? I think I am. Ash Richards asks, what if we zenithal primed him? Will that help or hinder? It's neutral. It would just, that's totally fine. I tend to zenithal prime a lot of the stuff that I do these days, but I put such opaque base coats that it doesn't help me too much. What am I basing with right now? I'm just grabbing Tempest Gray, but really you can use any medium gray. This is just for, actually technically you could use any color you wanted to. I'm just putting down a layer of paint on top of the bones so that my next layers of paint adhere with a little bit less effort. Though honestly, I have to say this is potentially the first time I have painted straight onto the bones black, and wow, that was easy. So I am pleasantly surprised with how well that went. That's all we're doing. We're just quickly knocking this out. I'm going to get a little bit on his shoulder so we can carry things a little further. And his massive bicep, 20 times the size of my biceps. There we go. Cool. So if you primed, you can skip this step. Absolutely. Is the slowness due to drying? And if so, would it be better to paint multiple figures at once? No. It's the slowness is due to how long it takes to blend. This is definitely a technique that I would not try to do multiple miniatures at the same time. I would lovingly baby one miniature at a time doing this. Thought he had teeny biceps. Well, compared to mine, he has massive biceps, so he's doing pretty good. He's doing pretty good. Cool. All right. Okay. Sweet. Now we are good to go. So now what I like to do when I'm starting any of my non-metallic metals is I don't jump straight to the blending. I jump first to trying to sketch out where I'm going to have my highest highlights and deepest shadows. So once I've sketched things out, I'll go back and blend and make it come to life. But because I'm choosing to take things in that order, that means that this is one of those techniques that is going to look like hot garbage until the very end. So if you're painting along with me and you're like, wow, this looks bad. I'm not sure about it. Keep the faith. Keep painting. Keep trying. And this is one of those techniques that in the last few minutes of it, it goes from bleh to really good. But until you get to those last few minutes, it does look like garbage. So keep the faith with me, and we'll do it all together here. So with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead, and with this, we're going to sketch out where we want the horizon to appear on the miniature in all these regards. So I'm going to grab my brown, or well, actually, let me show you my paints first. Let me show you what I'm thinking and why I picked my paints the way that I did. Yeah, Dean, exactly. If you were in my non-metallic metal class last year, you understand this looks like garbage. This looks like garbage until suddenly, oh, wow, it doesn't anymore. And that's a great feeling when it switches over there. So, okay, these are the colors that I chose for this, this particular class. There's no real magic to any of these colors. All you really need is you're going to want a white. This white is going to be the highest highlight. This is going to be the light peeking over the horizon. This is going to be that, yeah, the light peeking over the horizon. Then we need a really dark color, pretty much a black, but generally I like to substitute Reaper's liner colors instead of the blacks because they're nearly as dark and they have a little bit of color, so they add a little bit more visual interest. And the liners paint like dreams because they've got that different base, that little bit of flow improver there. So this is going to be my horizon, and then we're going to reflect the colors of the horizon. And I'm going to go really cheesy classic. He's going to have blue skies and deserty, you know, deserty ground around him. So I'm going with deserty colors. So I'm going through kind of a medium brown yellow in this rich leather all the way to a much lighter yellow with just a hint of desaturation in it in this burnt orange. Meanwhile, we're going to get our nice blue skies through this blue flame, and heck, these are going to be the bluest blue skies. So we're going to throw some tropical blue in there. Now, can you do this technique with different colors? Absolutely. I've done sky earth non-metallic metal with like reflective orange skies, like everything is burning or on fire around them. You can, if you don't want to have desert around them, you can do greens on this side of things. You can do greens and browns to make it look like you're reflecting some swampland or anything. You have huge artistic freedom. All you want to do is you want to pick one set of colors that are more typical of whatever you want the sky to look like. If you want a pink sky and it's like dawn or something like that, cool, pick some pinks. And then pick some ground colors. William asks, can you substitute greens for the browns if the character is supposed to be in a field or forest, or does it not sell as well? It will still look like really good non-metallic metal. It just, and like I was saying, you can use the greens. When you're starting, the brown and oranges give you more of that desert, you know, riding my polished motorcycle through the, you know, through the landscape feel. So that's why I chose these, but you can get away with anything. I've seen people do a really good job with just grays, really dark grays too. So, so that's why we chose the colors that we chose. Now, because the horizon ends up being the line that everything else is going to be blended above and below, I'm going to go ahead and paint the horizon first. So I'm going to grab my brown liner here, and I'm going to put some of it on my palette here. Now, I've got my palette. I'll swing it into focus here. I've still got my paint from yesterday's class, and I was messing around with some other stuff earlier today. I'm just going to take this brown liner, and I'm going to put it right here. And then I'll put the white next to it so that you'll be able to see the kind of the horizon and the light peeking over the horizon compared to each other. So we'll get that paint. We'll clean our dropper bottle, and we'll add a little bit of water to this paint. Real quickly, if you've never taken a class with me before, I want to show you how I water my paints down. I take my paintbrush, I dip it in my water, I get a little bead of water on my paintbrush, and then I smooth that into the paint. I work it gently out to the edges. I don't work it too far because if I spread out my paint puddle too much, it dries a lot faster. And then you can check things out by getting a paintbrush full of it and pulling out a little leg like you're making an amoeba. And you want to look at that leg. And if those legs slightly shrink, but don't immediately break into beads, you're looking pretty good. You'll have a good consistency for a lot of the techniques we do. If you pull out your amoeba leg and it instantly breaks into beads, then it's too watery, add a little bit more paint. If you pull out your amoeba leg and it sits there forever and never breaks into beads, then you are too thick and you should add a little bit more water. But this will work for us pretty well here. Christopher Adams asks, which channel in Discord would we share a pic from this or other classes with you for critique or feedback? You can go to the Ian Markon channel and show me what you're working on. I would love to see all of your guys' miniatures, your particular attempts at the techniques in any of my classes. If you guys send me that and ask for it, I will totally give you feedback and critiques that can hopefully help you personally get whatever is that last little bit that you need to click for the technique to work. So cool. All right, let's do this. So the ground is this direction, obviously. The sky is this direction. So all we need to do is we need to look at these plates and we need to ask ourselves, how much of them do we think is going to reflect the sky and how much do we think is going to reflect the earth? You don't have to approach this like it's a math equation or something like that. If you're a little bit different than how I choose things, it's still going to look just fine as long as you have the same gradients. So let's go ahead and get a paintbrush, fill it with that brown liner, take a little bit of it off on my thumb, and then let's go define our horizons. I think the arm is easy, right? I'm just going to paint a straight line across it because I believe that everything below that line is going to be dirt and everything above that line is going to be sky. While I'm doing that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mush some of my liner in these cracks between things just so we get a nice demarcation. I tend to like to do a lot of lining in my painting. Your mileage may vary, but I find that that looks really good a lot of the time. So we'll do a little bit of that here. There we go. All right, now you might have to go back over that horizon again and just hit it again to make sure it's fully dark. You need the top where it interfaces with the sky to be crisp, but you can be as dirty as you want and you can have as much jaggedness to the edge below where the line of the sky is, because we're going to cover that up with other colors anyway. Yeah, these chest plates do have a bit of an angle in them. I think they'll be perfect for us in that regard. So, okay, we've done that. I'm going to block this area out and forget about it for a second, just because, like I said, we can only cover so many pieces of the puzzle. So I'm just going to black that out so we don't think about it. And then I'm going to put the horizon line in, and I'm going to black out around the bicep too. And then I'm going to put the horizon line in the bicep. Now the bicep is a little tricky because it's rounded. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some more paint on my paintbrush here. And I'm going to make a little moon. I'm going to start up high, I'm going to dip down, and then I'm going to come back high again on the other side. And we're going to make this little depression that's going to be our actual horizon line. I'm going to reach up here a little bit further. There we go. There we go. And if it's not perfect, don't worry. We'll be able to go cover it with the light peeking over the horizon a little bit later. And we're also going to black out under that. Non-metallic metal benefits greatly from lots of areas. Great differentiation between black and white. So oftentimes having that black in between all the panels is going to help you out really strongly. I'm also going to mush some. And once again, when I'm saying black, what I mean is brown liner. I'm going to mush some of it into there real quick. There we go. All right. And up here near his cyber clavicle, which is functionally the same as a clavicle, but sounds cooler. And now let's keep blacking out around the bottom of these plates. And we'll do his abs because his abs would be a little bit tricky to figure out. So I'll work through them with you guys. Oops. I'm getting some paint where I don't want it. All right. That's okay. We're still in the base coating stage. I tend to, even on display miniatures, I'm pretty sloppy during this initial lining and base coating stage until you get a lot of paint on the miniature. It's still gonna be fine. So we'll do that there. All right. Now, let's put the horizon line on his shoulder. Now, the actual angle of his shoulder, we could probably do like a downward moon, but he has a little, I don't know, like almost a crease where the angle changes. So I'm gonna find that crease and I'm gonna do another moon, but this time I'm gonna make the moon a little bit taller in the center than elsewhere. So we got our horizon. You know what? I'm gonna bring up the horizon on that bicep a little bit more. Looking at it in comparison to other things. There we go. All right, let's see how that goes. Now, let's do that pectoral. Oh, Joshua Foley asks, how would you handle engravings / designs on the metal? That's a good question. So this technique tends to be a lot easier to do if you have big flat areas. If you don't, if you have tons of engraving detail, you can try to do this. What you can try to do is you can try to paint. If it's a let me caveat that. If it's a shallow engraving detail, you can paint as if it wasn't there, and then when you're all done at the end, then you can go in and you can like line the engraving, and you can try to approach it that way. That would be my first choice for trying it then. Connor Lyons asked, what is my preferred black for sky, earth, non-metallic metal? Does one thin better than the others? Since I'm already using brownish tones in the earth, I like to use the brown liner for this. It's preference. As long as you use some dark color, it'd be good. You could just use a super, super dark, like charred earth or something like that too. What about embossing? Remind me again, embossing is when something sticks out from the metal, right? In which case I would probably do exactly the same thing I just described with the engraving. And you just want to shade down around it there. Okay, cool. Cool. All right. Pretty happy with how that shoulder turned out. I'm actually going to raise up the right side of the horizon just a bit, looking at the angles there. Now, what we could do, we could actually take and we could draw little mountains in here and stuff, and you could add a little jaggedness to the reflection. We won't do that until we've already painted our white, though, because if we're trying to paint our white, it's easier to paint a straight line than anything else. Yeah, William, I would say for your first attempt at it, pick a flatter miniature, but I mean, you're always going to try harder on a miniature you're really passionate about. So if you want to give it a shot on a deeply engraved surface, give it a shot. You'll only learn things from it. Let's see. Marlessa Pop asked, how do you handle horizon lines on stuff like spikes sticking out in the middle of a plate? Okay, I actually just draw the horizon line dead in the middle. Like if we imagine like an ice cream cone sticking out there, I just draw a horizon line at the bottom on this side, or a horizon line at the side on this side and on this side, and then the white is right adjacent to that. I maybe have a miniature I can pull out at the end that I can show you how I would do that there. Lauren asks, do we always want the horizon line to be parallel to the physical ground? This gets tricky. So sometimes you can't do that reasonably. So let me grab back out this guy. So let's look at this guy's arm for a second, right? If I tried to make the horizon line parallel to the ground in his arm, it's going to look funky because we know instinctively, even if we haven't like cognitively thought about it, that cylinders reflect things coming from the sides. They don't really show much of a gradient up and down. So on a cylinder like this, I do the horizon line, and then I have a big, you know, scratch going through here, but we do the horizon line, and then we do the light peeking over the horizon right next to it. And that way the ground, his arm is ever so slightly at an angle, so I pick the left side to be reflecting the ground and the right side to be reflecting the sky. This is something I see a lot, that when people first attempt sky earth non-metallic metal, is that they try to keep all their horizon lines parallel to the ground. And you can do that on certain things like the knees and stuff like that, and like his cod piece here and whatnot. But you can't do that on other things where we know that it's like a curved mirror. This side of his leg is never going to see the ground. It's pointed up towards the sky. Whereas this side of his leg is never going to see the sky. It's pointed down towards the earth, even though they're both cylinder. Yeah, hopefully that helps a little bit. This is a mind bender, and you got to sit down there and you got to just try it a few times. And then when you do it a few times, you'll be like, oh, okay, that makes a little more sense. Cool. Awesome. Yeah. Good questions. Okay, let's finish off the horizon lines here so we can keep on rocking and rolling. Let's do this mighty pectoral. And I'm going to do another crescent moon. I'm going to start up here, and I'm going to swoop down. I'm going to swoop back up again. There we go. We'll see how it looks. We'll go from there. Now, we get his abs. Now we might look at these abs, and we're probably going to say to ourselves, they're only pointing up. They're only going to see the sky. And I would say, yes, that's probably pretty true. So we won't be able to show the reflection of the earth. So let's just add some lining in between each of them. And we'll paint them only showing the sky. If we have other things nearby that are only showing the earth, it'll all balance out at the end of the day. And we'll see the earth from up here, and we'll know just that, oh, those plates were only facing the sky. So you don't always have to, on every single plate, fit both the sky and the earth of sky earth non-metallic metal, but you got to have them somewhat close to each other so people know what effect you're trying for, instead of just like, oh, that's a blue dude or something like that. So cool. We've got our horizon lines here. Let's take another quick peek at them. That's looking good. The only thing I'm going to do here real quick is I'm going to take my gray and I'm going to fix my little error right there. I can't look too bad on, you know, while we're recording this, or my ego will take a irreparable hit. So there we go. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab that brown liner again. Once again, when I say black, I'm just meaning brown liner, and I'm going to darken that up a little bit because I think it's still a little bit transparent. There we go. I think this is a fairly good blocking out so far. So let's go ahead and add the white peeking around the horizon. And then once we do that, we'll have our base sketch from which to start blending. So, okay. Dirk asks, if you're trying to paint black lines under armor that's kind of raised, do you point your brush upwards to get underneath? Not quite sure I have envisioned in my head exactly what you're thinking of, but like if I'm talking about like these, they're painting upward, I just turn my brush on the side so that I can get it in at the angle I need. Basically, whatever works for you, however you can reach. But yeah, I usually try to pull my brush along the line that I'm trying to make. Even in this case, if I wasn't on camera, I would actually probably turn it to the side and I'd draw it along. But my left arm is more pinned than it usually is when I'm painting along with all of you guys. Okay, let's grab that white. So go ahead and break out your white here. And give it a good shaking up there. Let's get this guy out of the way. Go back to your palette. put it down next to the miniature here. There we go. So those two are going to be in opposition to each other as we place them down on the miniature. I'm going to go ahead and water this down a little bit because right now this white is way too thick for what we need to do. So getting my brush full of water, mixing it in. That should be good. The whites tend to run a little bit thicker than some of the other paints, especially than the liners. So sometimes I might add 2 brushfuls to my white, but we're not doing anything hyper detailed at the moment. So we're just sketching. So I'm going to leave it just like that. All right. So let's go back to our miniature. And you know what I'm going to do? It's going to be really hard for me to draw those white lines reaching over the black that I've already painted. So I'm going to flip them upside down and try my best to give you guys a good angle because I will be able to reach these a little easier. William Chamberlain asks, how would you handle a sword blade? Let's I'll leave that one up. Let's put a pin in that, and then when we get to the end, I'll come back and I'll try to show you an example of how you could do this on a sword blade, because that ends up being a deeper conversation than I can answer on the fly. So, all right, remember, wipe off some of your white, and then all you want to do, this is really hard with the angles that I've got, is just draw a nice smooth white line that is in opposition to what you've got with the ground. And I'm going to pull some of it up higher just to give me a nice white base to work over when I move on to the next colors. That'll just make the blending that much easier. So there we go. We're getting that sketched out. Moving on to his old bicep here. We've got to have a little bit more finesse work going on with this because of the curved nature of things. There we go. Getting it done. I'm going to clean my brush because the white glops up on it pretty easily. I want some level of finesse. Brush control is real. Thank you. I appreciate that. I tease that I didn't know what I was doing before I went to my first ReaperCon. I just kind of had a couple of written tutorials to follow from something. And so I didn't have a clue what I was doing, but it meant that I painted for almost 10 years in a vacuum where all I knew was just trying to get paint where I wanted it. So the only thing I was able to work on for all that time was just brush control. So by the time I started learning techniques, I was like, oh, I already had the brush control to pull some of them off because it was the only thing I was really able to practice for all that time. I'm going to go back through and hit that with another layer so that the white, I want the white to be fully opaque right up against the black line. So I got to hit it with another layer. If you guys hear me start to get quiet, I'm sorry. It's because I'm trying to be precise, and so I end up holding my breath, or half holding my breath a little bit there. So there we go. Now, what I'm noticing on this is that I might need to curve down the horizon a little bit more on this side just to accentuate the shape of his shoulder. And that's cool. We just paint over the horizon line with our white to make that work. All right. Cleaning my brush again. Whenever I'm doing fine detail stuff, I feel like I spend more time cleaning my brush than I actually do putting brush to miniature. But that works for me. Your mileage may vary. You may be one of the magical few who just doesn't need to do that. Sorry, hopefully I can get me enough light here. So now I'm going to definitely flip it over on its side so I can reach a little bit better. And plop some more down here. Remember, the only area that I need to be somewhat precise in is right where it's butting up against the existing colors. Everywhere else, I can afford to be a little sloppy, and we can just feather it out to make the next steps a touch easier. Okay, now let's go to those ab plates and do nothing with them. We'll come back to them later, and we'll approach it going from the blues to the white instead of from the white to the blues, because we don't have any real horizon to worry about in that case. So how's everybody feeling so far? How should you do this technique on gold or brass armor? Connor asks. Well, at that point, it's not technically sky, earth, non-metallic metal because you're not really reflecting the sky and the earth. But you can do the same thing that I'm doing here if you just sketch out the horizon and then you use yellows and yellows and browns to make the gold instead of anything else. All right, good. I'm glad to hear it's going well. So for most people, I think my horizon is experiencing an earthquake. That's actually okay. And in fact, what we can do now, if you guys want to be, we'll be extra fancy about this. Go ahead and grab some. Go ahead and grab some of your brown liner again, and just make little. We're gonna make some mountains. Just make some gentle, swooping. As I'm doing it because do it, but you can add, you can dirty up that boundary in order to make it look like you're reflecting some physical objects in the background. William asks, yellowish greeny sky and orangish or orangey brownish earth. Yeah, that could certainly work. You can, what I want to maybe go back and say a little bit better is that sky earth non-metallic metal is actually really no different than normal non-metallic metal. It's just you're trying to include a little bit more background color and everything. Now you do not have to do this step that I'm doing where I'm showing a little bit of the background. But if you're finding that your horizon line is already a little bit non-crisp, this can be a way where you can go back and save it for yourself a little bit. But if you were like, my horizon is perfect, you could leave it. Ryan asks if we wanted to add the reflections of trees or something, would that happen now or later? I would, yeah, you could do it now or later. It really doesn't matter. Like I said, it's just kind of working nicely for us now, so I'm giving it a go now, but we might have to go back and recover some of these later. I might accidentally eat them up as I do my blending. Who knows? Who knows? All right, we're sketched out. You know what I don't like though? I didn't make my white opaque enough over here, so I'm gonna go back and do that again real quick. What happened to my paper towels? Ratcheting paper towel stash just for emergencies such as this. Okay. How are we doing on time? Oh, we're doing quite well. All right, good, good. Sorry, I'll try to get that back in frame. You guys will know I'm cheating if the miniature disappears and then I put it back on frame, and it's like, and this is how the technique is supposed to look. So we baked this in the oven hours ago. We won't do that. There won't be any cut aheads here. Cool. Then after this, it's just blending. It's just blending. So let's go ahead and do some of that blending there. So what we're going to want to do, just for whatever reason, I always like to do my dark colors first, and then I put my light colors in a little bit later. So why don't you go ahead and break out, let's let's break back out our earth colors. So I'm going to set the miniature to the side, remind us what our earth colors are. Once again, nothing special, just you need some darker colors. And what we're going to do is we're going to go from our darkest color towards a lighter color, which will end up being a little bit different than maybe you're used to thinking of things, because we might have a lighter color on the underside of his arm than we do closer to the horizon line there. But let's look at how that applies in real life. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put some of these colors down on our palette in such a way where we create some nice even transitions, and then we'll go ahead and blend those onto our miniature. So go ahead and shake up your brown liner again. I'll move my palette back into position. And what I'm going to do, and you don't have to follow along like this, I just like to do a very spatial organization of my colors where my pure colors are a single row on the top, and then everything between them is a mix of the two colors that it's adjacent to. I'm an engineer. I like to approach things from a somewhat just fastidious method. Well, you don't have to do it this way. But nonetheless, if you want to follow along with me, you've already got your pool of brown liner. Go ahead and take one single drop of brown liner and put it below and to the left of what you got there. Now, go ahead and shake up your rich leather, or this would be the color, if you're not using rich leather, this would be the next, brown color here, right? Shake that up real good. Go ahead and put a pool of the pure color in line with the other pure colors. Then put one drop in with that one and one drop over here. Clean off my dropper bottle so that maybe, just maybe, it won't, if I run some air through it, maybe it won't clog for me next time. And then grab out your lightest earthy color. In this case, I'm using a burnt orange. Shaking that up, putting a pure dot of it right here, and then a single drop to join the rich leather. At this point, if I've been following my formula, hopefully you can see that the top row is all the pure colors: brown liner, rich leather, and burnt orange. And then underneath that and in between the colors, you have 50-50 mixes of each of them. So I spend some extra time, probably beyond what I need to, prepping my palette before each step, and that just saves me that much more time in the long run. Now, I give you like a 90% chance that these two are not going to play nice together, and we'll need to create an intermediate mixture, but this will be our starting point, and we'll blend from there. Mixing that up with some water, looking good. Mixing this up with some water. Oh, that should work nicely there. Well, or it spreads out the paint too much of the paint on the palette, even though I need to start having some issues there. Cool. And then there we go. Ready for him to enter his barren desert wasteland. Let's do this. All right, palette's all prepped. We're going to work with this color first, then this one, then this one, then this one, and we're just going to move on down the line making our blends. So I'm going to grab my 50-50 brown liner and rich leather. Going to take the majority of it off on my thumb so that the bristles just glisten with the color, but don't show any color on the outside of them. And then I'm going to start drawing that color down and away. I'm going to reach up and just leave a little bit of the brown showing on the brown liner on the horizon, and I'm going to draw things down towards where the earth reflection is going to grow. So I'll reach a little bit past where I left the brown liner there just to make the next transition that much easier. Now this may seem ridiculous, but generally when I'm painting non-metallic metal, it takes me 50% of my time to sketch and then the other 50% of the time to actually do the blending. It just, even though the blending has the most going on, it isn't always the longest step. Sometimes it just takes me a long time to base coat and sketch to know what I want to do. There we go. We shouldn't see that much of a difference between the color that we placed down last time and this time because we're trying to get a nice blend going here. Now you don't want to, just in case you haven't blended with me before, you don't want to take and draw another stripe of this color because your eye is really good at picking out stripes. So go ahead and kind of pull it away from the horizon down to, or away from that horizon we drew down towards the ground here. That will help. The little jagged lines will help disguise the color transition. I'm just almost using little just dots here. I'm just like dab, 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 dab with the paint. Okay, looking good. Grab that. We're gonna grab the rich leather now, and we're gonna do the same thing, but we're gonna move further down. Taking most of it off on my thumb, going back up here. Yep, those two colors are not going to play quite well together, so we're going to have to go mix an intermediate. But that's okay. That's all is not lost. That's why we do things in this order. Sorry, I'm migrating all my hands all over the frame by accident. I'll try to be more consistent. Okay. Onto the pectoral. And if at this stage you're like, mine's not looking very good, I would encourage you, don't worry, mine's not looking very good either. So we'll get there. Keep the faith, trust the process. All right, starting to come together, but I have a very clear line between these two colors that or between this line that I just put down. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back to my palette. I'm going to find the two offending colors, in this case, the rich leather and the 50-50 rich leather and brown liner. I'm going to grab a scoop of this. I'm going to grab a scoop of this. I'm going to mix them together there. That should be perfect. And now I'm going to use that little scoop mix to fix my problems. So load your brush up with that. Go back to your miniature. Once again, take most of it off on your thumb. And then what you want to do here is you want to find the offensive blend line and you want to just wiggle your brush back and forth over that line. Just lightly pressing. You're only trying to leave a little bit of paint there. There we go. Starting to make it work. And I do not have much real estate on this bicep. Oh, there we go. There we go. Starting to look a little nicer there. Just dabbing some more of it in there. Okay. Oops, bumped my camera. I taped my camera down so it couldn't move around. Hopefully that works. All right. We have already done. Swing out a little more light. There we go. Okay, we've already done the rich leather. So now it's time to do that 50-50 rich leather and burnt orange. Grab that mix on your brush. Take a bunch of it off. And you might need to turn the miniature a little bit because we're trying to really lighten up that underside. Once again, this is probably a little backwards to what you're used to thinking about because we're just making it the bottom of the arm lighter than what we painted previously. Just gently dabbing it in there. Drawing towards that corner. And doing the same thing on his pectoral. I'm having a harder time reaching it, so we're going to try it like this. Do a little sideways brush pulls. Starting to get there. Okay. Now, that didn't quite blend between the last layer as well as I would have liked. So I'm actually going to go grab just that rich leather again. Put that on my brush, and I'm going to very gently wiggle line over that edge, over that non-blended edge I created. Trying my best there to make things as smooth as possible in the time frame that we have. Flipping them on his side. Lovingly supporting him with my thumb and trying to just make that just a little bit smoother of a transition. Not bad, not the greatest that we have done, but within the time period that we're working here, it's looking okay. This is one of those things that you'll spend a bunch of time finessing when you work on this yourself. A lot of the time period will be just spent fixing all your blends and everything else like that. So let's go ahead and grab a little bit of that burnt orange now. Mixing mine up again. It separated a little bit on me. And now this is just going to be almost a ground highlight. So I'm trying to see how I can hold them where you can see them and I can reach them. Try. That's not working. Let's try this. Okay. It's going to work even better when we go hit the areas that we can actually see and reach a little bit better. Taking some off on the thumb, as always. And then there we go. Just getting the very bottom edge of things here. Very bottom edge. There we go. And you guessed it, very bottom. In this case, very bottom corner, but close enough. Get it all mixed in there, brighten it up, and then very bottom of the pectoral. You guys are all quiet now. You just focusing really hard on doing the technique? Or have I lost everybody? I'm just going to highlight the edge here a little bit. And I don't like quite how I did it over there. Blending like mad. Good. All right. Focusing. I like it. Let's grab. I'm going to go back and clean up that little corner with a little bit of the rich leather. All right, that'll work for our purposes at this moment. Clean up that a little bit. No sooner do I say that, then I go back and I start cleaning up. So that is this technique in a nutshell. So you'll just go back and you'll keep cleaning, you'll keep cleaning, you'll keep cleaning. Now, let's go ahead and get that sweet, sweet sky in there and start making this come to life on the other side. Lauren says, I discovered I ran myself out of room with the lighter brown, so I had to go back and move everything closer to the horizon. And if you watched, I was running myself out of room there at the same time. So that happens, but that's okay. Because when we look at the angle of all this stuff, there's a lot more sky that's going to be reflected by his shoulders and his biceps and his pectoral and stuff like that than there is earth. So we're just trying to add what earth we can. Later, if we went on and we did like his bulging thigh here or something like that, we might have a horizon line looking like this, and then you're going to have a lot of real estate to push the browns in there with, just because the bottom of that, it's not quadricep, what is it? Is that quadricep? I don't know, I don't remember. The bottom of whatever the front muscle on your thigh is would see a lot more earth than everything else. So the gradient curve is more towards the high tones, not the mid tones. Yeah, it's a little backwards than what you're used to, but yes, you'll spend a little bit more time towards those the high tones than you will towards the everything else. So quadricep is right. Woo! All right. In college, I took anatomy as an elective class, because even though I was in engineering, it was available. And I was like, maybe this will help me with my painting. I don't know that it did, but I still actually enjoyed the class. So it was all good. All right. Cool. Got a lot of people doing the holding their breath technique. I understand. I understand. Okay, cool. I gotta fight. Okay, I gotta fight the stop cleaning stuff up and move on to the next stage bug here. Okay, I've cleaned up enough for now. Let's see how the sky works, and then once we've got the sky all together, then everything will we'll go from there. Okay, so sky. If you had to take a guess, you would probably guess that we're gonna do exactly the same thing that we did with the dirt in the sky, and you would be correct. So let's go ahead and shake up our white again. Put down a drop clean that. I better get more paper towels. I use up a surprising number of paper towels when I do it. All right. Get our singular drop of white. Go grab our blue flame or whatever color you're using for your very light paint. Put that down and then drop, drop. And then grab your tropical blue, shake it up. It says, I'm glad you mentioned this technique looks like hot garbage until near the end, because that's how mine looks about right now. Yeah, don't worry. I wouldn't exactly go entering this in a competition right now either. So yeah, paper towels are like a necessary painting material. This is correct. I have one of the ratcheting holders so I can one-handed quick emergency paper towel grab. I need like a glass case like you store fire extinguishers in with like break in case of emergency for my extra paper towels. So cool. We're doing good. We're at the halfway point. I'm probably going to spend the next few minutes just adding water to these. So if you're watching along at home and you're like, man, I need to run out for a break real quick, get some water or something, this would be exactly the time period to do that. I'm going to take a sip myself. And then get back to adding water to paint. And there we go. Getting that ever so slight bluish tint to my white. Mixing that up. I have really grown to love this blue flame color. This is awesome for a lot of non-metallic metal just because it paints very nicely. It has a relatively decent opacity for such a light color. And it has a hint of blue in it, which really helps with a lot of the other steps. These two are not going to like each other, so we're going to need a midway point between the two of them. Yeah, William says it's also excellent for clean white cloth. Yes, it would do excellent for that more bluish, clean white. If you want like sterile white hospital clothes cloth, or just your lighting is such that there's a hint of blue, it'd be awesome for that. So cool. There's our paints. We're going to grab this guy and we're going to start pulling away from the light peeking over the horizon towards the sky. So load on up the brush, clean it off as usual, and start doing our thing. I'm not afraid to go way farther than I expect that this paint will cover, because at the end of the day, that just gives me a nicer, whiter base coat to cover up with my next colors. There we go. Loading more of it on the brush. And I imagine that you will find, like me, that everything is now much easier to reach when we're doing this step. So this one should be a little bit easier for us than the ground was. Oops, sorry, I was way off camera. Starting to come together. Let's see, a couple questions here. Ryan asks, I'm finding that my horizon line is varying in thickness from part to part. That's not ideal, is it? Generally, the bigger the piece is, the thicker the horizon line can be. Like, you kind of notice that my horizon line is thicker here than it is on these. You can try, I mean, try to be consistent, but if it's a little bit bigger on the bigger pieces, that's not the end of the world there. Amanda asked, what color did I start with? I was just using my slightly, my half and half blue flame and pure white, because I already have my pure white down there when I sketched. So now I'm just starting with one higher up there. James asks, if I see individual brush strokes beginning or end of the stroke, should I go back and relayer those in? Oh, that's going to be really hard to, in a single layer, be opaque with these white or tones that we're doing. So we probably are going to need a couple coats to get it in there. So yeah, if you see individual brush strokes, go back in and add another coat if you need to. I'm going to hit this area now. I might have to bump up my opacity like right there. I'm barely on camera. We'll try that again. Just dabbing in some more white to increase the opacity. And now pectoral. And I'm just doing that because I can't reach it by any other means. Here we go. Starting to get there. All right. Now, grab your blue flame. I'm gonna reach pretty far into the white at this point. This is such a light color that I'm gonna reach pretty far into the white. There we go. Bicep time. Flame again. I think you guys can see that okay. Reaching pretty far down with that there. In fact, I might end up covering most of the step that I just previously did, except for the white. Starting to get there. Oops, my thumb is in the way. Starting to get there. I don't like whatever's going on right there, though. There we go. Yeah, better. All right, I'm just going to save us some time here in that I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that I will not be able to go straight from this to this. So grab a brush full, plop it down, grab a brush full, mix it around. Need another one. There we go. That's about halfway in between the two of those. And we'll use that for this next step. Sorry, I'm letting my voice get all droney as I'm focusing here. But go ahead and grab that 50-50 that we had to make between the two of those. Now we're starting to be blue. Now we're actually definitely starting to see some blue. And reach down in there and start making this sky look more like a sky. Here we go again. Getting there, and then I have just enough left to the last little bit to fill my paintbrush to do this. Getting there. Getting there, getting there. Still looks like garbage, doesn't it? We're getting there, but it's still, it's not there yet. I think I'm getting all the Discord notifications, so I'll tell my phone to shut up at this point here. All right, we're getting there, but we're not there yet. So let's go ahead and grab our 50-50 blue flame, tropical blue. That's all that was left of my the go-between mix we made there. Wipe it off. Keep it going. Keep that gradient growing. We have to cover less and less each time, so it's possible that we'll speed up a little bit with each progressive color that we do. Starting to get there, but the blends aren't super nice yet. I'm not going to be able to reach from above, so I'm going to try to pull it in by angling my brush. And then keep that gradient growing. That's right. Okay. Before I go back and smooth that out, I just want to see how everything else is looking. So I'm going to grab my tropical and I'm just going to mush in my tropical, and then we'll go back and we'll fix things after that. So this is tropical blue for the win. Yeah, I didn't reach far enough with my into the white with my other colors. So I'm going back in and I'm really bullying the previous work we did with this new blue, and then we'll go blend from there. Okay. Yeah, okay. We did not reach far enough down with our blue. So we need to let the blue grow and eat up some of the white as we go back in and fix our stuff. Which we could look at as either depressing because we spent all that time making those nice blends, or we can look at it as the awesome growing opportunity that it is. So I'm going to go back in and I'm going to grab that 50/50 tropical and blue flame, and I'm going to wiggly line on the edge of the tropical. Eat some stuff up. I'm going to wiggly line here. Wiggly line here. Eat up some of that white. We got too much white showing. Oh, that is a horrible angle for you guys, but hopefully you can see, or you understand what I'm doing, even if it's hard to see. Still grabbing the 50/50, still fixing things a little bit. There we go. Yep, it's starting to come together there. It's starting to. We still got a little ways to go. So I did just create a new transition that I'm having trouble with. So I'm going to take a scoop of both of those colors, mix them together, and then wiggly line the new problem boundary. Go. Okay. Now we need to go back to that 50/50. So, okay, remember how we figured out that these two don't work together? Grab another scoop of this, plop it down, grab another scoop of this, plop it down, make that halfway in between the two of those. It's mostly what I got on my brush here. And then go fix this. Eat up some of that white. The problem we decided is that we have too much white. Okay, you guys are gonna have to forgive me here real quick, but I cannot reach that on camera here. So I'm gonna slide it off to the side so I can see. And we'll come back better blended. There we go. Yep, it really is all about the blending. Hence why my favorite classes to teach, because they're my favorite classes to do, are blending and non-metallic metal. And really, are they two separate classes or just the same class with a different name? Hard to say. There we go. Now we're starting to see some shine here. Yeah, exactly. Got your blending and non-metallic metal. We're getting there. Here we go. Okay. Now I'm actually I'm gonna grab blue flame again because I feel like we can do just a little bit more blending with that. But let's see here. Slightly dabbing that boundary. I literally am just barely touching the boundary layer here. And now, especially if I turn them to the side and I get rid of the stuff that I didn't do on the top so hot, we're starting to see it. So, how's everyone feeling so far? What problems are we running into? Good. Good to hear that. Glad to hear that there, Ryan. How about some other folks? What problems are we experiencing? Oh, I'm getting smiley faces. That's good. Now I want to try adding the trees. Okay, yeah. Let's see. Back and forth, back and forth. That's right. All good. Does it make sense to add any clouds in the sky? You know, I've never really tried that. Good brushes can help quite a bit there, Christopher, you're right. Emily, don't worry. If it looks okay, you know what it needs? Just more blending. So I'm sure you'll be able to recover it there. Oh, that's good, Henry. I'm glad this is helping you on the blending front. Oh, good, good. Awesome. Lee, if you pushed your light blue too close and now your white is super fine, just go back and add some more white. In fact, my white has dried a little bit because it was the first color we put out. So I'm actually going to get some new white because now we're going to add a couple of little shine effects that are going to really help us out sell this effect even further. Good, good, good. All right, you guys are encouraging me there that things are going well. So sweet. Justin asks, how would you do wet blending, or how do I find wet blending works for this? Any trouble you've run into? So I don't know if there's anybody who used to watch or play tennis out here, but there was a tennis player in the mid 2000s named Andy Roddick who had two tricks. He had possibly the best serve in the game, and he had possibly the best forehand in the game. And he won matches on the strength of those, making up for his weaknesses elsewhere. I only wet blended successfully for the first time last month after years and years of doing this. So I have zilch experience with wet blending and can't really speak to that one. I'm still going on the strength of this blending. This is what I got. This is my serve that I'm trying to work on. Now, that being said, I've seen a lot of folks online do wet blending for this or similar techniques. I imagine it would work quite well. My only concern would be wet blending tends to work better with larger areas. And I don't know if you'd have enough real estate to get a brush in there when you're doing that. So Emily asks, can we see the finished example again just to get through? Oh, don't worry, we're not done. I'm just setting him aside so that we can detail some things out a little bit more, because right now he's blue and brown, but he's not shiny quite yet. So we're getting, we'll work more on him. We'll get through the rest of the miniature here. Let's see. Palette again. I'm setting out some white, some pure white. Nothing fancy here. I'm just going to get that out here. This is going to be our shiny white effects white. So this is our light that's glancing off of things and everything. So I'm going to water this down so that it flows really smoothly, so I'm going to get my brush full. And that feels pretty good. Now, we're going to use that white that we just made to do some more effects that are going to pop this the rest of the way. So go ahead and once again, get most of it off on your brush here. And we're going to do a couple different things here. First of all, any areas where the horizon might have gotten a little wimpy, we can beef that back up. We can brighten it back up. If I can reach, holy cow. His head is bending my brush. That's not working. It was fine, though. I don't know that I really needed any more white in that area. I'm going to beef that up. And oftentimes I would actually sketch the horizon with an off-white, and then I would only go back and really brighten it all the way with the pure white at the very end. It's stylistic. I'm sure it's good there, Alicia. I know that I'm going to experience, when you guys put all your pictures on my Discord after this, I'm going to be like, wow, I'm glad that they still managed to learn despite how bad my example miniature looks. I definitely felt that way with my blending class yesterday. So you guys are doing great. I'm confident. Let's blacken that back up. There we go. We fixed that ugly blend there. Okay. I'm going to grab that brown liner again because I didn't recognize when I originally lined that he's got these little vent things on his chest. So I'm going to get some black in those real quick. And there we go. I apparently completely forgot this big super wrist hoop thingy or forearm hoop thingy he's got. So let's just real quickly, if you want to practice real quick, just put some, there's my horizon. Here's my light over the horizon. And then you can blend through that real quick. I'm just going to cheat with this one because I don't need to make it look as good because we just need this one to be close so it doesn't look odd compared to everything next to it. Abs. Oh, that's right. Thanks for reminding me. We'll do the effects first, and then we'll pick back up on the abs. So. Okay, not perfectly blended, but it gets at least the right colors in the right vicinity again here. Okay, break that white back out that I said that we were going to use for effects, and then I got sidetracked. Let's go ahead and take these little vents he's got. The bottom side of that vent is definitely going to reflect some light. So let's go ahead and paint a thin white line on the bottom side of each of the vents. Starting to get a little bit more shine there. Let's go ahead and add a sun on his bicep. You know how hard that is? Extremely easy. I'm not even going to remove any paint from my paintbrush. Just load it with white and go boop. And you know what? That looks really good on rounded surfaces. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to boop the sun right up there. Now we're going to take and do the same thing up on his shoulder. We get those high point reflections going. I wouldn't, it's hard to do it on the, it's hard to do it on the cylinders because really it would show up as a line. So I'm gonna leave the cylinders alone with that. But say you've got some bad blends, right? Because even as many years as I've been doing this, sometimes I still have a nasty blend here and there. Why don't we hide some of those nasty blends here? You know how we're gonna do that? We're gonna give him some authentic battle damage here. So we're gonna go ahead and grab some, you don't have to do that one. If you're really happy with how things are looking right now, don't do this step. But I'm gonna grab my brown liner. I'm gonna do a couple little areas there. I'm not happy with that. So, and then I've got my little brown, I've got my black in here, right? Go ahead and grab your white. Yes, saying boop does help with the brush control. Often the sound effects, like if you just make wiggly brush noises, that helps with the accuracy. Make sound effects, it does. Go to the bottom of the line that you just made, because the bottom is what would reflect the light, and just do a thin white line, ideally thinner than the one I just made. That's a little bit thick, so I'm going to go back and fix that one by grabbing my brown liner. And dragging that through. And then I'm going to go back and grab the white again and fix this up. Let's grab that white. Let's do the other couple of scratches we did earlier. Now I might have normally made these a little bit smaller. Right now they're a little big, and so they're kind of detracting from things there. But just have fun with this. This is a practice miniature. We can do some cool things here. There you go. Now we're starting to get a little bit of the authentic battle damage. You can move it around elsewhere on your miniature. You can be good to go. Let's say shininess, right? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take a little bit of this white. I'm going to throw it on over here. Normally, I never mix anything with white, but I don't want to pull out any other colors. So I'm going to mix a little bit of white in that burnt orange here, make a really light color. And then we're just going to experiment. Is this going to look good? I don't know. We took some of that color, and now what we're going to do is we're going to say, hey, the bottom side of this plate might get some major reflection of light. So let's just line the bottom of that plate with this. Let's give the edge of his pectoral a super shine. Do we even see that? No, because I did it at too high of an angle. So you can just play with this stuff. See what you like, see what you don't like, see how it works. That's probably a little bit too stark. I wouldn't do that again in the future, but you'll learn that way. It's like, and mine looks great until you did the battle damage. Oh, that is tragic. But you can just do more battle damage. Just you know, dry brush some brown over that real quick there. Give it some dirt. Yeah, give it some black there, or some soot or whatnot. Cool. Justin, if you add trees and mountains, you have to worry about keeping the reflections consistent. Like if you have a tree on the pectoral, do you need a tree on the, but I don't think that anybody will notice it to that level unless this is like, you have two huge flat surfaces next to each other that are mirroring the same thing. And even then, I don't think that's likely. So I would not stress about that in the slightest. Racy asks, how come you never mix white? Because if you mix with white, it tends to desaturate things, and so it loses a little bit of the vibrancy. Reaper makes 1,000,001 paints, so I just go grab a vibrant color of the bright shade that I need versus accidentally making a kind of a chalky, non-vibrant color through mixing white. It's not that it's necessarily wrong. I've seen people do a good job mixing with white, but it's the danger is still there. So cool. All right. We've done a good job so far. We're in a pretty good spot, but you know what we haven't painted yet? We haven't painted the abs. Yeah. And Lauren, yeah, if you say if you held yours at arm's length and all of a sudden several areas pop, that's awesome. That just means the further away you look at it, and you're like, oh, wow, that looks great. It just means that up close, you got to do a little bit more blending, but you're on the right, you've got the right paint placement there. So that's awesome. So, okay, cool. Let's do those abs. You know what I'm going to do the abs? I'm going to grab my tropical blue, and I'm going to real quickly splash that on these abs. Making sure I leave some of the lining in the recesses there. All right. Now we've got the blue in there. We just need to start making said blue brighter. So I'm going to say that basically the edge of each of these plates is going to be where the horizon line would normally be. But the problem is I would not have enough space to draw my white horizon line and then carefully blend towards the crevice. So I'm just going to paint my darkest color. Then I'm going to grab my various mixes and I'm going to pull down towards the light. I'm going to work towards the horizon this time instead of away from it. Getting there, getting there. Got a little over 20 minutes left, so see how fast we can do these abs, and then maybe we'll have time. We'll be able to talk swords. We'll be able to talk a little bit else like that. So, okay. Getting lighter and whiter. Not trying to spend too much time on this here. So I think you guys see where I'm going. It's just like do the blends. Oh boy. Nearly sent him flying. Getting there. This is just the blue flame I'm using right now here. Oh boy. Oh well, it's a little scratch. A happy little tree of miniature of sky earth non-metallic metal. It's a happy little scratch. Okay. Then white on that edge. White on that edge. More white on this edge. And white on this edge. And then what I'm going to do, because technically these plates have angles in them, is I'm going to go. Once again, the sound effects help with the accuracy. So make your little sound effects and you'll be good. And then I would go clean that up and do some more blending on it here. Any time for you to block out one of the thighs? Something that would get more earth than sky? Sure. I think we've got time for that. Let me, because I've been promising William that I would talk about how to do a sword blade real quick. Let me pull out a sword blade and we'll talk about that, and then I'll block out a thigh. Hopefully, while you all can watch here. Yeah, close enough. You get the idea. You get the picture. I just need to blend more and make that work. And then I would often, actually, you know what we can do? If you guys are cool, instead of me doing a thigh, I can do the rib cage like this, because the ribs are going to get mostly dirt, and then they'll be right next to the they're right next to the abs. Would that work? Would you guys be cool with the dirt, or is it you really want the thigh? Or sorry, would you be okay with the ribs, or do you really want the thigh? What does everyone want to see? Ribs or thigh? Ribs? Cool. Ribs? Ribs. All right, ribs it is. Let me grab that miniature, talk about the sword, and we'll do some ribs. Okay. All right, I have a couple miniatures here for us to take a look at. One of them is, neither of them are true Sky Earth non-metallic metal on the swords, but you can incorporate some of these techniques if you just include more like the shining blue that we did right here. And then that will give you some more like sky reflection appearance in the blade. A little bit more towards what we were doing today here, though, is with this spear, which is not showing up super great. There we go. I mixed some earth tones in the shadows, and I mixed some blues in the highlights, and then we went from there. This was my D&D character in a campaign I played not too long ago. He killed a giant tree, evil tree spirit with his, well, hasted with his spear. He was like a woodpecker of doom, just stabbing and stabbing. It was hilarious. But yeah, you get your dark colors. You get so much. Do I have? Wait, I got one other miniature that might show it a little bit better. Because it's hard when you've got flat surfaces to get a horizon line. Okay, so you'll have to forgive this one. It's by far an older miniature of mine, but he had a broad, flat blade on his sword. So I did like some burning sky with him. Generally, you need a little bit of a mirror-looking surface on your blades, which you may not always have. But notice how like the upper surfaces have to be only sky, but then the lower surfaces are only dirt, and then in between we get that. We got a flat surface where we can do the horizon line on it. So does that help? Hopefully that gives you some idea of how I would handle a sword blade. It would have to be the right sword blade for this technique to really look good on. Okay, ribs. Ribs, ribs, ribs. Okay. My paints are drying for me on my palette here. We'll do what we can with what we got. Let's, that's gonna be like that, that's gonna be like that, and this is gonna be probably more like that. There's gonna be a little bit that's gonna see the sky, and then I'm gonna black out that space between the ribs. It's a diamond cross section oak shot type 12 blade. I love that. That's awesome. I think I may have accidentally closed out the wrong question in the Q&A. If I was meaning to close out William's question on the sword blade. If I closed out somebody else's question without answering it, please forgive me and please resend me your question. Okay. There we go. Starting the ribs. What we're going to do here is get that horizon in there real quickly. Curve it a little bit. Yeah, that's pretty good for the moment. That's a decent sketch before we dive in. All right, now let's see if I can, there we go. If I hold them like that, you guys can see him. I can see him. I can't reach him, but we got 2 out of 3, ain't bad. So, let's see what we can do. All right. Let's real quickly just dot in some of the lighter blues on the top of these ribs here for consistency. We don't have much real estate to work with there, so we'll just hit it with the other blues. And then finish it off with our tropical blue, just a dot. Fortunately, it's small enough that it's hard for the blending to even be, possible and make much of a difference at this point. So there we go. Tropical blue all up in that rib. I liked it better before I put the tropical blue in. But whatevs, we are working on the earth tones. That's the more important portion of this. So, get our darker earth. Let's still leave that black in between the ribs. And we'll hit things with our 50-50 leather and a rich leather and brown liner. I'm just going to the end here so I have some good paint to cover over. Let's brighten it up. Rich leather. Get in there. Bring it up a little bit higher here just because we want to be able to see it. when we're looking at the miniature and not just when we're looking at the bottom of the miniature. There we go. I brought it up far enough now. I'd have to sit there and do something with the blend, but we now brought it up far enough. And then that 50-50 burnt orange and rich leather. Oops, I'm sorry. I'm moving him off camera there. And then we'll splash in the burnt. And then there you kind of, oh, that's not even remotely on camera. Let's try this then. There we go then. And then what I could do, even if it didn't make full sense, is I could take more of his side abs. I know that's not the proper terminology, but and make that browner just so it looks okay, more okay to have just the blue on the abs there. Yeah. So past this, it's just time and effort. We slowly get to the point that we're happy. I know when I did that that chrome Space Marine that I showed at the start, and I'll show him again here in a second. That was a long miniature. It was more like, here, we'll do an arm today, we'll do a leg today. It was not like we sat down and did everything all at the same time here. That was just a lot of metal to go through. So I wouldn't necessarily use this unless you do a quicker, abbreviated, less blending version for an army. I would mostly save this for your competition style stuff. But at the end of the day, if you do enough with your blending, you can basically take these techniques that we just learned and you can produce what I've got over here. So cool. Oh, don't forget the code. That's right. Let me share with you all the code to go get your stick of butter emote that you can hopefully wear proudly here. Let's see. Oh, Alt Tab is not going to kill me, or it's going to kill me here. Let me try this. Stop sharing. Hopefully you guys can see me again. And I will get you the number. The number for the stick of butter is 71935. So I'll type it in here. $71935 for butter. There we go. Cool. That's pretty much a wrap from my end. So please take pictures of your minis. Head on over to my little nook of the Discord. Share your pictures there. Let me see what I can potentially help you with. If you have questions, or if you just are really proud of them and want to show them off, then slap a picture in my Discord, because I would love to see how you all did here. So could real quickly there. Oh, thank you all. Awesome. You've been such a fun class here. Let's see. Can you show the back of the Space Marine? I'm curious. Oh, how the technique wraps. So what I did on the back, oops, I gotta engage my camera again. Screen share, advanced content, second camera, share. So what I did to wrap it here was, like, especially you can see on the legs, I've got one horizon line on one side of the leg. I've got another horizon line on the other side of the leg. And like the underside of his rib cage is all earth. And then you've got one horizon line on one side of the arm, one horizon line on the other side. Hopefully that helps there. So cool. Awesome. Thank you all too. You've been just great, and hopefully I'll see a few of you later today for the painting fun faces class as well. So with that, thanks again, guys. Please hit me up on the Discord or you know, anywhere else. Come find me. I love this hobby and I love sharing what I can with all you guys. So with that, I think I'll go ahead and call it a wrap. But thank you all and happy painting.